Have you ever wondered why some of the most beautiful things in life, peace, clarity, even love, seem to arrive only when you stop searching for them? It's as if life hides its treasures in plain sight, but only reveals them when your heart grows quiet enough to see. In the stillness between one breath and the next, opportunities and answers begin to rise. Not because you ran toward them, but because you finally stood still long enough for them to catch up with you. Buddhist wisdom calls this the art of living in flow, letting go of the constant pursuit and learning to meet life halfway. We live in a world obsessed with chasing the next job, the next relationship, the next version of ourselves. We scroll, we compare, we run toward a finish line that keeps moving. But here's the paradox. The faster we run, the more exhausted we become, and the further away peace feels. Buddhist teachings offer a different approach, one that feels almost radical in today's culture. Stop chasing. Let life find you. Imagine a river. When you stop thrashing, you float. The current knows where to take you. This isn't about giving up. It's about shifting from frantic effort to intentional presence. Stillness doesn't mean nothing is happening. Think of a seed beneath the soil, unseen, yet quietly gathering strength to break through. In the same way, when you stop forcing life, something within you begins to align. Opportunities that once felt out of reach start flowing toward you. The art of letting go is not passive, it's an active trust. It's choosing to believe that life has its own timing, one that may not match yours, but is often far wiser. When you're no longer tangled in what if and when, you create space for clarity, creativity, and unexpected blessings. And here's the beautiful twist. When you stop chasing, you start noticing. The quiet joy of a morning cup of tea, the comfort of your own breath, the way sunlight spills across the floor. You realize that life isn't waiting for you at some future milestone. It's happening right here, right now. So as we move through these 12 lessons, I invite you to pause. Let each insight sink in like rain into thirsty soil. You might just find that the peace you've been running toward has been sitting beside you all along. Stay until the end for the bonus lesson. It's one that brings all the others together, like the final note in a song that makes the whole melody make sense. Have you ever felt like the more desperately you wanted something, success, love, peace, the further it seemed to drift away? You try harder, push more, hold on tighter, yet somehow life keeps moving your goal just out of reach. There's a quiet truth in Buddhist wisdom that explains this, and it's the first lesson we'll explore today. Desperation, the door that closes blessings. Imagine holding water in your hands. At first, you simply want to keep it safe, but the tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. That's exactly what happens when our energy comes from the fear of losing, instead of the trust that life will provide. Desperation doesn't just create tension within us. It subtly signals to the world that we are incomplete, that we are lacking. And when we radiate lack, life responds with distance, not abundance. It's not a punishment, it's a mirror. The urgency, the clinging, sends out a vibration that quietly pushes away the very thing we're chasing. Buddhist teachings remind us that letting go is not giving up. It is choosing to trust that what truly belongs to you will return in its own time. It's creating space so that blessings have a place to land. Like softening the soil in a garden before planting seeds, we must soften our minds with patience, stillness, and faith, allowing life's gifts to take root again. So as we begin this journey, ask yourself, in what areas of your life are you holding on too tightly? And is your effort born from love and trust, or from the fear of losing? Sometimes the shift from desperation to peace is all it takes to open the door for blessings to walk back into your life. After realizing that desperation can quietly push away what you desire, the next shift is learning how to create space for those blessings to actually arrive. And that brings us to our second lesson, stillness, the gateway that welcomes life in. In a world that glorifies constant motion, it's easy to believe that progress only happens when we are running, hustling, chasing. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us that sometimes it's in the moments we stop moving that the most important things begin to take shape. Picture a still lake on a quiet morning. Only when the water's calm can it perfectly reflect the mountains and sky. In the same way, only when the mind is still can it clearly recognize the opportunities and blessings already present. Movement has its place, but without stillness, our vision becomes blurred, and we risk running past the very things we've been seeking. Stillness is not laziness. It's an intentional pause. It's choosing to step back, breathe, and allow the dust in your thoughts to settle so you can see the path ahead without distortion. In that clarity, you notice the people, chances, and ideas that were always near, just hidden beneath the noise of your rushing mind. In your own life, think of a time when you slowed down, maybe during a quiet walk, a mindful breath, or a moment alone at sunset, and suddenly saw a solution or felt peace about a decision. That is the power of stillness. It gives life the space to reach you, instead of you constantly reaching for life. So as we move forward, remember this. The world will keep spinning whether you run or rest. But when you embrace stillness, you allow life's gifts to find their way to your doorstep without you having to chase them. Sometimes life whispers instead of shouts. There are seasons where nothing seems to move, yet beneath the surface, everything is quietly shifting. This is the essence of our third lesson: quiet phases. Life's hidden preparation. There are moments when everything seems to pause. No progress, no breakthroughs, no visible change. Our instinct might be to panic, to think something's wrong. But in Buddhist wisdom, these quiet phases are not failures. They are life rearranging itself behind the scenes. Think about a butterfly's chrysalis. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. But inside, profound transformation is quietly unfolding. The wings, the colors, the strength, all are forming in silence before the butterfly can emerge and fly. Life often works the same way. The project that feels stuck, the relationship in a lull, the personal growth that seems stalled, all may be going through an unseen stage of alignment, setting the stage for the next breakthrough. Just because you can't see the progress doesn't mean it's not there. In fact, these silent seasons are essential. They allow roots to deepen, foundations to strengthen, and clarity to form before visible results appear. Without them, any sudden success would be shaky and short-lived. So the next time life feels slow or still, ask yourself, what might be quietly taking shape right now? Trust that the pause may be the very thing that allows your next chapter to unfold beautifully. Sometimes the quiet phases we experience aren't meant to hold us back. They're preparing us for the moment we can finally let go. And that brings us to our next lesson: letting go. The magnetism of true freedom. There's a paradox in life. The more you try to hold on, the more things seem to slip away. And yet, when you release your grip, life often finds a way to give you exactly what you need, sometimes in ways you never expected. Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about releasing the need to control every outcome and trusting that you are already whole. In Buddhist wisdom, this trust creates a magnetic energy, not a desperate pull, but a quiet presence that naturally draws the right people, opportunities, and experiences toward you. Think about planting a seed. You don't keep digging it up every day to check if it's growing. You water it, you give it sunlight, and then you wait. The patience and space you create are what allow life to work. In the same way, when we let go of the need to constantly manage, control, and force, we give life the space to surprise us. I remember a story of a painter who spent months obsessing over a single piece of art. She would repaint and adjust it endlessly, but it never felt good enough. One day, frustrated, she put the brush down and walked away. For the first time in weeks, she took a day off, enjoyed a walk in nature, and allowed herself to simply be. When she returned the next morning, she saw the painting with fresh eyes and realized it was already complete. It wasn't the art that needed changing. It was her own tight grip on perfection. In letting go, she didn't lose control. She gained clarity. And that clarity allowed her to share her work with the world confidently. Letting go is powerful because it shifts the energy from, I need this to be happy, to I'm already enough. And from that space, your presence becomes lighter, warmer, more open, and people, experiences, even blessings are drawn to that light. Ask yourself, what are you holding on to so tightly that it's blocking what you truly want? Could it be a relationship, a specific outcome, or the image of who you think you should be? When you release that grip, you're not abandoning your dreams. You're creating the conditions for them to breathe. You're showing life that you're not chasing. You're ready to receive. True freedom often begins with letting go, but holding that freedom requires something deeper, the ability to trust in what you cannot yet see. This trust is where the next lesson unfolds. Growing faith in the unseen. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't happening. In Buddhism, there's a quiet wisdom that life often works in silence, far from your awareness, arranging threads you won't recognize until they come together. Faith is not just believing in what you can touch. It's knowing that what's meant for you is already on its way, even if the path is still hidden. Think of a river flowing far upstream. You can't see the waters yet, but they are moving toward you, carrying what will one day nourish your life. In the same way, the blessings you've been waiting for may already be moving in your direction, silently and steadily, whether you're aware of them or not. The challenge is that the human mind craves certainty. We want to see proof before we believe. But faith works in reverse. Belief often comes first and the evidence follows. This isn't blind hope. It's a calm confidence that life, like nature, has its seasons. Sometimes the job offer hasn't arrived yet, the relationship hasn't appeared, or the healing hasn't completed. Yet beneath the surface, roots are forming, connections are aligning, and unseen hands are weaving the fabric of your future. The fact that you can't see progress doesn't mean it's absent. It may simply be happening beyond the reach of your senses. Buddhist practice teaches patience here, to rest in the present moment without the constant need to check whether the seed is growing. When you plant a seed in fertile soil, you don't dig it up every day to see if it's sprouting. You water it, trust the process, and allow nature to work in its own time. Life is the same. The unseen doesn't need your constant watchful eye. It needs your faith, your openness, and your willingness to prepare yourself for the moment it arrives. And perhaps the most beautiful part is this. When the unseen finally becomes visible, you'll realize it had been quietly moving toward you all along. Faith in the unseen gives you the patience to wait, but patience alone isn't enough. There comes a moment when holding on turns into a necessary struggle, and in that moment, the greatest strength is to surrender. Lesson 6. Surrender as a quiet strength. In the modern world, surrender is often mistaken for weakness, as if letting go means giving up. But in Buddhist wisdom, surrender is not about abandoning your dreams. It's about releasing the fight against what is, and allowing life to carry you where you are meant to be. Imagine a sailboat caught in the middle of a shifting wind. You can either exhaust yourself paddling against the current, or you can adjust your sails to catch the wind that's already blowing. The boat still moves, but now it moves with far less strain, guided by forces greater than your own effort. This is the essence of surrender, to recognize when your effort has crossed the line into resistance, when the push forward is no longer progress, but friction. Struggling endlessly is like trying to force a locked door open before the right key arrives. Surrender is the wisdom to step back, breathe, and trust that the timing will align when it's meant to. Many people fear surrender because they equate it with loss of control. In truth, it's about choosing where to place your control, not in forcing outcomes, but in shaping your inner state. You may not be able to command the waves, but you can learn to surf them. You can't dictate the seasons, but you can plan at the right time and harvest when the moment is ripe. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises from attachment, the refusal to let reality be what it is. Surrender is a way of loosening that grip. It's like unclenching a fist that's been holding too tightly. In that release, blood flows again and energy returns. There's also a subtle power in surrender that draws the right conditions toward you. When you are no longer projecting desperation, you radiate a calm openness that others and opportunities are naturally drawn to. Just as a pond attracts wildlife when its waters are still, your own stillness becomes a quiet magnet. Surrender doesn't mean you stop moving. It means you move with intention, not desperation. You listen more, push less, and allow the current of life to guide your next step. This is why surrender is not weakness. It's the art of working with life instead of fighting it. When you let go, life begins to guide you in ways you can't always explain. And this is where our next lesson comes in. calm enough to hear the universe's whispers. Calmness isn't just an emotion, it's a frequency. The universe doesn't shout instructions at us. It speaks in quiet, subtle signals that are only clear when our inner waters are still. In Buddhist wisdom, calmness is like tuning a radio to the right station. If there's too much static, stress, fear, overthinking, you'll miss the message entirely. Think of a lantern in a dark forest. When the flame flickers wildly, the light is scattered, and you can't see the path clearly. But when the flame is steady, the light is strong enough to reveal the way ahead. That steady flame is your calm mind, and it's the only way to see life's true directions. In a world that rewards quick reactions and constant motion, calmness becomes an act of quiet rebellion. It says, I choose to respond, not react. I choose to listen before I move. This isn't passivity, it's mastery over your own energy. Calmness lets you wait for the right moment instead of wasting your strength chasing every impulse. Buddhism teaches that an unsettled mind is like a pond stirred by the wind. It can't reflect reality as it is. Only when the water is still can it reflect the moon clearly. The same is true for your life. The more still your mind, the more clearly you see truth. Calmness also changes how others respond to you. People are drawn to those who radiate steadiness, because in a noisy, chaotic world, that steadiness feels like safety. It makes your words carry more weight, your presence feel more grounding. And here's the paradox. When you cultivate calmness, you're not just listening to the universe, you become part of its voice. Your decisions, your actions, your energy all begin to align with something much larger than yourself. You no longer force outcomes. You participate in the natural rhythm of life. Calmness isn't something you wait for. It's something you practice. You can begin with a single breath, a few moments of silence in the middle of a busy day, or a quiet walk without your phone. Over time, this practice becomes the foundation from which you hear life's subtle invitations. When your mind is calm, the universe doesn't have to raise its voice. It knows you're already listening. When you've grown quiet enough to hear the whispers of the universe, you begin to notice something subtle. The path isn't always visible, even when it's right in front of you. And this leads us to our next lesson, when desire becomes the fog over your eyes. Sometimes it's not the lack of opportunity that blinds us, but the intensity of our longing. Like a traveler walking through dense fog, the faster they rush, the less they see. To regain clarity, you must have the courage to pause, let your breath slow, and allow the fog to lift on its own. In Buddhist teaching, this is the art of gently releasing attachment so that wisdom can naturally emerge. There's a fine line between healthy ambition and blind desire. When the heart burns too fiercely for something, that fire can create smoke, and smoke blurs your vision. You might think you're moving toward your goal, yet you're actually walking in circles, chasing shadows in the fog you created yourself. It's like hiking up a mountain on a misty morning. The path is still there, the summit hasn't moved, but your impatience pushes you forward without pausing to check your footing. Soon you're lost, not because the mountain changed, but because you rush through without seeing clearly. In Buddhist wisdom, this is the danger of clinging. The more we insist on it must be this way, at this time, the more our own insistence becomes the obstacle. Life's opportunities are not hidden from us. We hide them from ourselves when we let craving overpower awareness. Sometimes the most powerful move is to set down the burning torch of desire and let your eyes adjust to the natural light. You start to notice paths you missed, signs you overlooked, and solutions that were quietly waiting in the stillness. Ask yourself, is my wanting coming from inspiration or from fear? Inspiration opens the mind and sharpens vision. Fear-driven desire shrinks your focus until you see nothing but the object you're chasing, missing the vast beauty and options around you. The practice here is simple yet challenging. Loosen your grip. You can still care deeply about what you seek, but release the frantic energy that clouds your judgment. Trust that what's meant for you will remain visible, even if you slow your pace. Blind desire doesn't just cloud clarity, it steals peace. But when you learn to temper your wanting, your inner vision clears, and suddenly, the road ahead feels open again. When the fog of over-desire finally clears, what remains is space. Space for life to move at its own pace. And in that stillness, we begin to understand something profound. The most beautiful things in life unfold in their own time. Which brings us to lesson 9. Life's timing, your unique season to bloom. We live in a world obsessed with speed, fast results, instant responses, overnight success. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us that not everything blooms just because we want it to. Every soul, every dream has its own season. Think of the moon. It does not rush to become full. It waxes and wanes in quiet cycles. The farmer cannot force a seed to sprout in winter, no matter how much water or sunlight he gives it. In the same way, your life has moments of growth and moments of waiting, both equally important. When we demand that life give us answers before their time, we often end up with half-formed results. It's like pulling a fruit from the tree too early. It looks ready, but it's still bitter inside. Patience in this sense is not passivity, it's active trust. Buddhism teaches that time is not something to conquer, but a sacred partner to dance with. If you listen closely, life will show you when to plant, when to tend, and when to harvest. The pauses in between are not wasted. They're the quiet preparation for what's coming next. I once met a craftsman who carved wooden prayer beads. It would take him weeks to finish a single strand. When I asked why he didn't work faster, he smiled and said, "If I rush, the wood won't speak to me. And if it doesn't speak, the beads have no soul." That's the truth about sacred timing. When you honor it, the result carries a depth that speed could never create. In your own journey, there will be seasons when nothing seems to happen. You may feel stuck, impatient, even forgotten. But often, these are the very moments when roots are growing beneath the surface, unseen yet essential. Just as dawn cannot arrive without the quiet hours of night, your blooming season cannot arrive without its season of preparation. So, the next time you feel impatient, ask yourself, am I trying to pick the fruit before it's sweet? Am I willing to trust that what's meant for me will arrive when both I and the moment are truly ready? Sacred time is not just about waiting, it's about being present during the wait. It's learning to breathe, to notice the small changes, to celebrate the subtle progress that tells you life is indeed moving, even if it's moving quietly. When you stop fighting time, you start flowing with it. And in that flow, you discover a peace that doesn't depend on how fast things happen, only on your trust that everything is arriving right on schedule. Have you ever met someone who walked into a room without saying a word, yet you could feel their presence immediately? Maybe it was calm and grounding, or maybe it was heavy and tense. That's the quiet truth most of us overlook. Life responds to our energy before it responds to our words or actions. In our previous lesson, we spoke about the sacredness of timing. Now we move into the next insight. Energy shapes the outcome before it arrives. Think of it like preparing a guest room. If you expect someone important to visit, you don't leave the space cluttered and messy, hoping it will fix itself when they arrive. You set the tone in advance. Clean sheets, fresh air, maybe even flowers. Your inner world works the same way. If you want peace, you make space for it first. If you want love, you cultivate warmth before it knocks at your door. One of my teachers once told me a story about a farmer who wanted rain. Every day he stood in his field, staring at the dry soil, feeling frustrated and desperate. His neighbor, on the other hand, plowed the land, planted seeds, and prepared the irrigation channels as if the rain had already been promised. Weeks later, when the clouds finally broke, whose fields do you think were ready to bloom? This is how Buddhist wisdom teaches us to approach life. Desire is natural, but the energy we carry while waiting for our desires to unfold makes all the difference. Carrying doubt, impatience, or fear is like planting seeds in poor soil. They may sprout, but they'll struggle. Carrying trust, presence, and gratitude is like planting in rich, fertile earth. So ask yourself, if the thing I want most were already on its way, how would I act, speak, and feel right now? Then start living that way today. Because life rarely gives us what we chase with tight fists. It gives us what we're ready to hold with open hands. When your inner frequency matches the reality you're calling in, the outcome doesn't just happen by chance, it becomes inevitable. When your inner energy aligns with what you seek, something beautiful happens. You stop chasing and you start noticing. And this leads us to our next insight. You don't have to earn worthiness, you simply have to see it. Many of us live as if we're on trial every day, constantly presenting evidence to prove we deserve love, opportunities, or respect. We work harder, speak louder, and bend ourselves into shapes we hope will be accepted. But here's the quiet truth in Buddhist wisdom. Worthiness isn't handed to you like a prize. It's recognized the moment you stand fully as yourself. Think of a lighthouse. It doesn't sail the seas, knocking on ships' doors to announce, "I'm here, please notice me." It simply shines, steady, unshaken, and visible to anyone who needs its light. In the same way, your role isn't to convince the universe you are worthy, but to live so authentically that the right people, opportunities, and blessings naturally find you. This doesn't mean you sit passively and do nothing. It means you root yourself in your values, follow the path that feels true, and let go of the exhausting performance of trying to please everyone. In time, the right circumstances will meet you exactly where you are. Not the mask you wear, but the truest version of you. I once met an artist who stopped applying to every single gallery, chasing approval from places that didn't understand his work. Instead, he poured himself into creating art that spoke from his soul. A year later, one of the country's most respected galleries reached out to him, not because he changed to fit in, but because he finally stood out by being unmistakably himself. In Buddhist thought, this is the power of alignment. When your inner state and your outer actions reflect the same truth, the universe responds in kind. You become a clear signal in a noisy world, and those meant for you will always find their way. So release the need to prove. Be like the lighthouse, steadfast, clear, and unafraid to stand in your own light. Because when you live from that place, the blessings you seek don't need to be chased. They arrive right on time, to the person you've become. When you finally stop proving your worth and simply stand in your own light, something shifts. The constant hunger for more begins to lose its grip. And that leads us to our final insight, knowing what's enough to live lightly. In Buddhist wisdom, enough is not about having everything you could possibly want. It's about deeply appreciating what you already have. This simple recognition frees the heart from endless comparisons and quiets the urge to compete. Peace doesn't come when you've filled every shelf. It comes when you realize the shelves you already have are holding more than you truly need. Every new craving is like a thread that binds you. One or two might feel harmless, but over time, they weave into a net that keeps you from moving freely. The fewer attachments you carry, the more space you have to breathe, to notice, to live fully in the moment. Imagine walking through life with a backpack. The more you put in, the heavier every step becomes. Choosing enough is like setting that backpack down and realizing how light your body feels. And here's the paradox. When you stop chasing, you often discover you already hold what you were running toward. True happiness doesn't wait at the finish line of some distant goal. It grows quietly in the soil of gratitude, right where you are. It's sipping tea slowly, not rushing to finish it. It's listening to the rain without needing to check the weather for tomorrow. I remember meeting a woman in a small coastal village who lived in a modest wooden house, owned only a handful of clothes, and grew most of her own food. She told me she'd once had a big city career with a big paycheck, but the stress, the noise, and the endless ladder climbing had worn her thin. Now, she smiled, I have less, but somehow I have more. Her days were lighter, her heart calmer, her life fuller, not because she gained, but because she learned to let go. To know enough is to reclaim your freedom. It's choosing not to let the outside world dictate your worth, your pace, or your joy. And when you live from that place, every day feels lighter, every breath tastes sweeter, and your happiness becomes something the world cannot take away. If there's one quiet truth I've learned, it's this. The universe doesn't reward the loudest effort, but the deepest alignment. This bonus lesson is a reminder that stillness isn't the absence of action. It's action born from harmony. Think of an empty cup. Only when it's clear of yesterday's tea can it welcome the fresh brew of today. Or picture the way dawn arrives, not with a crash, but with the soft light of sunrise, the quiet breath of morning dew. Nature teaches us that life's most beautiful arrivals are wrapped in silence. When we operate from a frantic, grasping energy, it's like trying to play a song on an instrument that's out of tune. No matter how hard you strum, the melody feels off. Inner stillness is the tuning process. It brings your thoughts, intentions, and actions into resonance so that when you move, the world moves with you. In Buddhist wisdom, stillness is not passivity. It's choosing to breathe before you speak, to observe before you act, and to trust that sometimes the right move is no move at all, at least not yet. This doesn't mean abandoning your dreams. It means carrying them with steady hands instead of trembling ones. I once watched a fisherman on a small pier, sitting for hours without casting his net. When I asked why, he smiled and said, "The tide isn't right yet. If I throw now, I'll only scare the fish away." Moments later, the water shifted, and with a single graceful throw, his net filled. That's the power of waiting in harmony instead of fighting against the current. Choose peace first, and the right doors will open. Not because you forced them, but because you became the kind of person those doors were meant for. Life, in its quiet wisdom, has never demanded that we chase harder, run faster, or prove ourselves to anyone. And yet so much of our energy is often spent doing exactly that, reaching, grasping, striving. But what if the truth is simpler, softer, and infinitely more powerful? What if the key to receiving what you seek lies not in adding more effort, but in creating the inner space for it to arrive? Throughout this journey, we've explored how desperation closes doors, how stillness makes room for blessings, and how trust grows in the unseen. We've learned that clinging only pushes away what we desire, and that surrender is not weakness, but strength. Each lesson has been a step toward one truth. Life responds not to the chaos of our effort, but to the calm of our alignment. Peace does not wait for life to become perfect. It begins the moment you choose it. It starts in the breath you take before reacting, in the silence you allow before making your next move. In Buddhism, this is the power of non-grasping, the courage to release control and trust that the right things will find you at the right time. Think of a seed buried in the soil. It does not force itself to sprout overnight. It rests in the dark, nourished by what it cannot yet see, until the moment comes when it rises effortlessly toward the light. Our lives work the same way. The unseen work of patience, stillness, and faith is what prepares us for the seasons of blooming. And so the invitation is not to do more, but to be more present, to trade the noise of constant striving for the quiet confidence that what is truly yours cannot be taken away, to understand that every pause is not a delay, but a sacred space where life is rearranging itself in your favor. As you move forward from this moment, I encourage you to notice the places where you can let go just a little more. Loosen your grip on outcomes. Trust that your worth does not depend on endless doing. Remember that a cup overflowing with old water cannot receive the fresh stream. Sometimes the most powerful action you can take is to empty the cup and wait. You don't have to force life to give you its blessings. You only have to be ready to receive them. And readiness is born in peace. The more you cultivate stillness inside, the more naturally life will flow toward you. I'd love for you to share in the comments one insight or shift you're taking from today's journey. Your story might be the very reminder someone else needs to hear. And if this message has resonated with you, consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with a friend who might be searching for the same peace. Life is not a race to win, but a path to walk with awareness, gratitude, and trust. Keep walking, and let life meet you halfway. And remember this, you are like a mountain lake at dawn. When the winds are restless, the surface ripples and nothing is clear. But when the air grows still, the water becomes a perfect mirror, effortlessly reflecting the sky, the peaks, and the light. Your life works the same way. The stiller your inner waters, the more clearly life will reveal the beauty already surrounding you.